Hello, darling heart, and welcome to the Drink Less, Live Better podcast. This is the podcast that helps you to see that drinking less doesn't need to be stressful, lonely, or boring. I'm your host, Sarah Williamson, and I decided to have a year alcohol-free as a little life experiment and haven't looked back. With my experience and training, I now help other women with their alcohol-free or drink less adventures. I'm here to tell you that you can relax, connect, and have fun without alcohol in your life. Join me here each week to find out how. Today I am delighted to have with me Lea from Glow Sober. Lea and I met in an online sober community when we were both newly alcohol-free. Over the last couple of years, we've also attended some coach training together and become friends. Lea, welcome to the podcast today.
Thank you, Sarah. Pleasure to be here. Thanks for having me.
Great stuff. So first of all, I'm really interested that you tell everybody a little bit about Glow Sober, please.
So Glow Sober is, first and foremost, was an Instagram site where I review as many things alcohol-free as possible. That is mainly alcohol-free drinks, but also alcohol-free literature, podcasts, things to do when you are clean and sober and you have much more time on your hands. So it's been going since August last year. I have lost count of the amount of alcohol-free drinks I have reviewed. It was born from me knowing that once I gave up alcohol, I really would like to have some kind of replacement that wasn't just Beck's Blue, lime and soda, or some nasty syrupy cokey thing that you get in pubs. So that's where it's born from. It's growing nicely at the moment, and yeah, I'm loving doing it. It's kind of transitioning now from just reviews into just some little kind of bite-size pieces of advice for those who are newly sober and wishing to stay that way.
Brilliant. It's lovely. I highly recommend it, and we'll give some details at the end where people can come and find you. Tell me a little bit about what your inspiration for Glow Sober was. Where did you come up with the idea?
So rather than start in the middle, if it's okay with you, I'll kind of just start with a little bit of a backstory, because then it might make a little bit more sense. So I have had a long and complicated history with drinking, as many people have. I think it kind of started, my parents divorced when I was 13. I noticed and recognised that my mum used alcohol over the period of that time as something that self-medicated, kept her numb, kept her drunk as well, unfortunately. But I think that a lot of the behaviours that I probably picked up from there in terms of using alcohol as a place to self-medicate and to keep myself numb. And I think I did that probably from the time that my parents divorced. I think anybody who is able to drink freely as a young person without any barriers, you will know how dangerous that can be. And I think I've got myself into all sorts of scrapes and troubles from doing so. And I think that kind of behaviour carried on over many years. And as I kind of progressed from teenager into young adult, I noticed that I was always the person that was probably the person most willing to get the most drunk, probably the person with the most hangovers. I think I used them as badges, as how bad I felt on a Sunday was how good my weekend had been. I think one of the things that I didn't realise was that blackouts were not a normal part of normal drinking. So I blacked out regularly, couldn't remember huge swathes of my evenings, which as a young woman, and not just a young woman, a young man as well, but it's a very dangerous place to be. And so that kind of behaviour did carry on for many years. And whilst I think some people will, and I think many people will recognise this, when you are the person who's the most drunk at the party, you're always supposed to be, you are always the most fun. But for somebody like me, I think it was more around my personality was as such as nobody really knew which Lea was coming out to play. So every time I was drinking, At some points I could be extreme fun, at other times I could be very upset, I could be very angry, and so consequently it's always a little bit of a roller coaster. I think ultimately and catastrophically, the thing that kind of changed the most in my life was in 2018. My only son, my only child, was killed in a road traffic collision. He was in a car with a drunk driver, and that nearly killed me. It very, very nearly killed me in terms of the my reaction to it. I really did not think I was going to survive, but I think when I look back at the way that my mum handled extreme trauma from her divorce with 3 children and no money, I think I probably replicated that and went into a very deep dive of constant drinking to numb any pain that I would feel. And that happened over a period of nearly 2 years, where I continued to drink, even though the very thing that had killed my son was actually a drink driver. But to get through the years of the things like the court case, because we live in quite a small place, we did live in quite a small place, there was a huge amount of attention onto me, and that can feel very public. And when you're going through something that is highly traumatizing and feels like you're kind of almost public facing, it can be a very difficult place to be. As I said, that carried on right up until 2020. I had a particularly bad episode late 2019, where I went out with a friend, spent probably the afternoon, about £200 on just champagne in one afternoon, thought it would do me the world of good, but consequently it ended in me having a huge breakdown, really, to the point where I tried to throw myself out of my own bedroom window, and my partner had to literally stay with me. He could not leave me, and I could not remember any of it. And that was really telling to me. That really frightened me. But I still continued to drink right up until July of 2020. And I don't know whether anybody else has ever felt like this, where you wake up every morning and things have got to change, and in the pit of your stomach that you're still doing something, it's bad for you, you want it to change. And then early July the 4th, Independence Day, ironically, I went to a barbecue with some girlfriends, got so drunk again, had a really nasty fall, woke up with the most horrendous bruises, could not remember a thing. And then I saw all the videos of me being, really big fun time, everybody having a laugh, to then me falling over, really seriously injuring myself. And then I just realised that time had really come. And then July the 12th, I woke up on a Sunday and just decided that was it. I had to stop, because if I didn't stop, I think I kind of knew that it was going to kill me, really. And it wasn't that I was, drinking, bottles of vodka or anything like that on a nightly basis, but I was drinking at least a bottle of wine. And the trouble is so many of my friends do the same, but what one person can consider to be a problem, somebody else won't. And so July the 12th, I woke up and I knew that it had to stop and I had to change. And really, my long-term goal was to live a good life in memory of my beautiful son. And that is what I wanted to do. And the only way I know that I can do that is by being sober.
Yeah.
So.
And so on July the 12th, was that a day with another massive crushing hangover on that day?
No, no, it wasn't, which is really so strange. Actually, it was one of those nights, I don't even know, I think I may have had a couple of drinks on the night before, but I didn't have a hangover. But I just woke up and I knew that life had to be different for me. And so I knew it was serious, because most of the time, anytime, and most of us will know those day one promises where you're never going to do it again, but they're born from that existential dread of hangovers, where you promise yourself everything's going to be different. You promise everybody else everything's going to be different.
Yes.
But you know really that it's not. And this time I knew, and it has been ever since. And I have not looked back.
Yeah, that was similar to me. Or on the day that I decided that was going to be my last day, I didn't have a massive hangover either. I had just had a couple of drinks the night before, and I think you're so right that on that morning, it comes from a far more rational place in your brain, where you're not just saying never again because your hangover feels so dreadful. You're able to say never again in that situation and really mean it that time. And certainly I found, I don't know if you do this, but I found it helped me from the beginning not to say I was never drinking again. I started out with a much smaller goal. I didn't start out thinking that this was going to be life-changing for me, but of course it's turned out to be so.
To be.
Yeah.
To be. I think I'm one of those people, because I used to smoke, and so I smoked I gave up, I think, in 2001. But when I'm pretty good, once I set my mind to something, I'm pretty good. And it felt like I'd just run out of steam with it all. I'd just completely run out of steam. And so I said to people, and I'm like, because I'm a runner, for instance, I run quite a lot. And one of the first big races I did was the New York Marathon, because, go all in.
Yeah,
Just
why not? Yeah.
runner, go and do so. So the first thing I did was I went and told everybody as much as I could, because I've got that horrendous fear of embarrassment if you say you're going to do something and you don't do it. So the best way for me is to put it out there and say, that's it, so I told everybody, and I don't think everybody particularly believed me to start with. And I think out of all of the people who would give up drinking, I wouldn't be one of them. I wouldn't be in the frame for that. And so consequently, I've had a huge amount of support, like every day, because I use, I use apps, I use counters, I count my days. I love my days. Everyone feels special, and every day should feel special. And the thing is, what you realize when you don't drink is how much you relied on drink to, in some way, what you were calling take the edge off. I don't want my life to be something I take the edge off. I want it to be something that I fully enjoy without taking the edge off. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, absolutely. Living a life that we don't need alcohol to escape from. Living,
Okay.
In the joy that we can every day.
Exactly.
So you woke up on that 12th of July. Tell me a bit about how the idea for Glow Sober then came about and followed on from that moment forward.
Okay, this is going to sound to some people odd, but I will tell you anyway. So I, as I already mentioned, I'm a runner, so I do quite a lot of running, and my I've just recently moved to Bournemouth, but prior to that, I'd lived in the same very small village my whole life, where my son was born, brought up, and is now buried. And he's buried kind of at the top of the village, beautiful setting where I used to run every day so I could go and see him. And so early August, I was running, beautiful sunny day, really early in the morning, and I was running along to the churchyard, literally got adjacent to his grave, and Glow Sober came into my head with such a force, almost like an epiphany. It was such a force where I could see in front of me everything that it could possibly be, and everything I know it's going to be. And I felt like it was a gift from Jack, because it just showed me the life that I am capable of living, that I never dreamed would be possible. And I want to do it in his name, and with his spirit and his kind of essence in me, because he was a very strong-willed boy, of something I'm very proud of now. not always easy when it's your own children to have very strong-willed children, because obviously you don't want them to be robots, but you'd like it if they did what they were told once in a while. And Jack has written on his gravestone, "A man of my own rules," because that's exactly what he was, and that's what he used to say, and he was exactly true. And I want to live in that spirit, that there are no boundaries for me, and there are no boundaries for anybody. You can, and it sounds, and until you're doing it, you can create the life that you want to. Yeah, it takes work, and you have to be realistic. No, you can't have a £1 million house and a Ferrari, but in terms of the life of service that I want to have, and that's really what came to me, struck me. My story, my relationship with alcohol, can mean something to other people, and it can support other people, and I want to do that in Jack's honour, because I think it's really important. And he taught me that the only limit I have is my own belief, and that's it.
I love that. I love that. And so on that point, then you've been working away, putting together your really fabulous reviews for quite a while now. Is that the direction that you intend to keep on going, to keep on adding to that, or have you got other plans in the pipeline for the future?
So I'm kind of on the kind of precipice of something new now, which is fantastic. And I want to keep my review site going, because I think it's really important. I have lots of lovely messages from people who say it really helps them in terms of the choosing their alcohol-free drinks and where to get them from, etc., as well as the literature. But I am branching off into training, so looking at mindful drinking, looking at those limiting beliefs in terms of people. I'm not somebody who says just because I've given up drinking, everybody else should give up drinking. That's not what I'm about. I'm saying if you want some information about alcohol, if you want some insight and some interest and some facts around what alcohol might do to you, and some ways to moderate if that's your thing, then I can help you. And I'm not doing it in a one-to-one sober coaching way. I know there are lots of brilliant sober coaches out there. In fact, there are, you being one of them, there are lots out there. So what I'm looking at is going into kind of glow sober training, and so that will be largely directed at employers and employees, and talking to them about drinking behaviours. So ways to feel if you want to cut down, if you want to stop, providing resources and information. And that's kind of where I'm going, and I'm really, really excited. So
it's going to be fabulous. Yeah, I love the idea of that. Yeah. Tell me a little bit about what you do at the moment. Do you still drink with your friends in the pub? Do you have a favourite drink in the pub? Do you prefer to drink at home? Tell me a little bit about what your social life and alcohol looks like at the moment.
So again, I think I'm very lucky in that, and I know this doesn't work the same for everybody, but I don't find other people drinking alcohol a trigger. In fact, right at the moment, even drunk people don't bother me that much on the whole, and I know that can be very difficult for most people, or for a lot of people. But I do still go to the pub. I do still socialise. My favourite kind of drinking is drinking at home, finding my favourite glass. And to me, having a really nice glass, having a really nice spot, and making time for yourself is a really important part of any drinking. It always was. We don't drink, there's a reason we don't drink wine from mugs. Drink wine from nice glasses. We drink champagne from flutes. We have a different glass for a different drink, and the drink it's not because it's the alcohol, it's because of the drink we're drinking, and it's because of how we like to enjoy that. And I think that that's the bit that most people need to understand, is around how lovely is it to sit down with all of your friends and have a really nice tasting drink from a lovely glass with lovely people, and then remember it all in the morning. I mean, how fabulous is that? And so some of my favourite drinks, I think anybody that's explored the AF market will know that there's still an awful lot of work to be done, but it is a growing market and it's huge. And there are some fantastic things that I'd never drunk before. Wheat beers. I love German wheat beers. They are lovely. They're great. You know, for me, I'm kind of starting to kind of divide my winter drinks, my summer drinks. I love the cocktails and the mocktails. So there are some that are amazing, and you know, I'm not plugging anybody, but Highball do a great ginger dram, and I love ginger is one of my favorite ginger beers, ginger ales, great drinks. And this is amazing. It's a really beautiful drink. Looks beautiful in the bottle, looks beautiful in the glass. What more is there to like? And I still love my fizzes. I still love the pop of a cork, you know. And there are some that are great. There are some that are not so great. With the ones that are not so great, some of the over kind of saccharine type ones, sometimes I'll chuck some frozen raspberries in a drink just to make it kind of give it that sharp, to take the edge off the sweetness. But it's all about the atmosphere, the people, the time I take, all of those things, not just, whipping a bottle out of the fridge because I'm really, frankly fed up. I've had a really bad day, chucking something down my neck because I think it's going to make me feel better. I no longer do those things. The best thing now about having a drink for me is sitting down, and rather than trying to ignore my feelings, I observe my feelings and I reflect on them whilst I'm having a non-alcoholic drink. So it's about the time, it's about the mindful space that you give yourself.
Yeah, and definitely my Thursday night used to be my gin and tonic night, and it was that moment where I leant back against the kitchen counter and sort of had that first big glug of G&T. And now, I'm quite fond of the alcohol-free gin and tonics, but as you were saying about the nice glasses, I've got a really fancy, heavy cut glass tumbler that I like for that, and I love the clink of the ice as it goes in the glass and cutting a slice and sort of keeping the ceremony the same, but the feeling is totally different, and actually not having that drink because I'm exhausted and I don't know quite else what to do with myself, but choosing that drink because it tastes really lovely, and then sitting down for 5 minutes to gather my thoughts. I also definitely used to do that drinking at the end of the day part out of a real thirst, and I hadn't realised that I just wasn't drinking enough water during the day. So I've made a real conscious effort over the last 18 months or so to make sure that I don't arrive at 6 o'clock very thirsty. I've drunk enough water during the day, and then what I drink in the evening is a choice born out of choosing a flavour, and a way of relaxing. I'm the same as you. I still love to socialise. I still go to the pub with my girlfriends. And I don't think any of my girlfriends notice once they've all had one drink whether I'm drinking or not. I think we have a tendency to think that people care about what we're doing more than they actually do.
Illusions of grandeur, isn't it?
Yeah,
Where
it
you
really
just think that nobody cares what's in my glass any more than I care what's in their glass.
Exactly
It's just,
right.
it doesn't matter.
And
What
if
matters is you're having fun.
Yeah, absolutely that. And if I'm having, if they happen to be drinking gins and tonics and I happen to be drinking tonic in a gin glass in the pub, nobody knows any different. Nobody knows any different. And you're so right to say that the important stuff that really matters is the company, is the atmosphere, is the feeling of being together, is the sharing stories and the laughter. And all of that still feels exactly the same to me as it ever did, with the added bonus of no hangover in the morning.
Completely. And I think that, what's really lovely is, certainly with some of my friends, is they've started to observe their own drinking. So nobody's given up drinking, but a lot of them have kind of started to try alcohol-free drinks and are kind of replacing some of their alcohol with other alcohol-free drinks because and it's not about whether they feel, and this is the thing that really kind of gets me is that some people think that you either have to be, you have to label yourself as an alcoholic, which nobody has to label themselves anything, or you have to be, shaking in the corner or drinking from a paper bag in order to give up drinking, which is just simply not true at all. If you don't want to drink and you don't feel comfortable doing it, or you are unhappy with your levels of drinking, then you simply don't have to. But our culture has taught us, and our mass marketing has taught us, that the only way we will have a good time is if we are drinking alcohol. And I think that those barriers are really difficult to break. And I know when I'm delivering training, I will be the most hated person in the room. People will automatically be defensive and say, well, I don't have a problem with drinking. And I kind of almost, you need to say, nobody's saying you've got a problem with it. I'm just saying, here's the information, here's the actual information. This is what it is. Nobody's suggesting that you have, but if you want to cut down, if you want to replace those calories with something else, if you want to spend 20 quid less a week. I mean, I was spending, because I'd kind of upped my, from the wine I was drinking, the only wine I was drinking was Marlborough Sauvignon Blanc, New Zealand, and that was it. And I was spending like £9, I was spending £9 at least a night on a bottle, and I'd kind of become one of those people. That was the only thing I could drink. But now my partner opened a bottle of wine last night, and I thought, that stinks. It's horrible. I really don't like it. It doesn't bother me. But I thought, how could I think, because I've changed, or my taste buds have changed, and my experience of alcohol has changed, but my experience of myself has changed. I don't need to go out and be the center of attention. I don't need to go out and stand on a table and dance, but I will. It's a lot. My thought was, because my favorite ever song is Taylor Swift's Shake It Off, and if I can still go out and dance to that sober, then I'm all right, and I can.
Life is good.
That's it. So, and if I want to get up on a table and dance, then I will, but I won't need to be drunk to do it. So
yeah, I love it. Brilliant.
Yeah.
Great. So tell us a little bit about where people can find you online, so they can.
Okay. So Instagram is just @GlowSober, Facebook is GlowSober, website, which is just a review site rather than training, is www.glowsober.co.uk. If you're interested in looking at the training as part of a wellbeing program for your employer, or you are an employer and you want somebody to talk to employees, you can contact me. Email info@glowsober.co.uk, but you can always message me via Facebook, Instagram, LinkedIn. I mean, I'm everywhere. So if you see the glow, it's me. I'm more than happy to talk to anybody pretty much about anything, because I think one of the most important things about this space is collaboration. We have to collaborate, we have to support each other, whether we be women, men, whoever we are. We have to support each other in this space, because it's a wonderful secret society that nobody ever tells you about, and you never know existed until you're here.
That's exactly perfectly summed up. I love it. In our secret society, there's room for loads of us.
Absolutely.
Good stuff. Lovely to chat to you today. Thank you ever so much for your time.
Oh, you're very welcome, Sarah, and thank you.
Thank you for listening to this episode. Please listen in again next time. You can sign up to my 5-day Drink Less experiment and find out about working with me one-to-one at drinklesslivebetter.com. It would make me happier than a Buddhist monk if you would please subscribe, 5-star review, and comment on my podcast on whatever platform you listen. Imagine it like the tasting notes on the finest wine I am never going to drink. Thank you. And P.S. I believe in you.